We're Kristen and Michael. We bought our house in the Joshua Tree area in 2021 and renovated it ourselves and turned it into a short-term rental. And because we put all of our money into renovations, we couldn't add special amenities to it. So over the last couple years, we've slowly been building it up and creating a unique space for all of our guests.
You have enough room for a cheek right here. So we noticed over the last year or so that a lot of the houses in our area that were short-term rentals all started to look the same.
Copy and paste.
There was a lot of the same furniture, a lot of the same amenities. I mean, there's only so many things that you can do. So our why behind this project was to really differentiate our property and set us apart from the competition so that regardless of how the market is, we can continue to bring bookings in.
Have a place that people want to go. It's a unique stay. There's something at the home that no other homes have. Wanted to make sure we put our stake in the ground and let everybody know that we're different over here and you're going to experience something beautiful and magical at our house.
So that was really the driving force for this entire project. Ever since we bought the property, we knew we wanted to do something really cool with this area out the backyard on our 5 acres of property. And we knew it had to be magical and it had to be something that people would love to photograph and just something unique that would make our house stand out. In 2022, when NFTs were a thing, we saw this image and we thought it was really cool how there were these glowing moons and planets kind of like in the desert landscape. But there were more practical projects that we had to accomplish first, like getting a hot tub for our Airbnb and renovating this outdoor space, building a pergola. And it wasn't until July of 2023 that we actually started planning out this project.
We knew we wanted a stargazing platform and something unique. We didn't want just a square deck. So these are some of our inspiration photos of what we wanted, and we did an AI rendering of what it would look like, and we got pretty close. In August of 2023, we began to build the moon garden.
One of the reasons this project took a very long time was because building a circular deck is just not something normal. So it took a lot of planning, and we found plans for a circular yurt structure online. And that is what we used to build the base for this deck. The first order of business was figuring out the geometry of this thing, getting the frame built, and then leveling it and putting a weed barrier down. Once we got that, cut all of these rafters, set them into place. I think cutting the wood took the longest because there were so many pieces of wood. Then we had to space them all out to be even. We were so excited at this point because we could finally see like something was being created. And if you've been following along on this journey, you might notice now that there was these moons sitting in the background this entire time we were building this. Then we put a girder around the entire outside and it made a giant wagon wheel. And then we turned the wagon wheel into a spider web for extra support. And guys, this is a yurt structure, so you could technically build like a livable home on top of this. This thing is not going anywhere. But so it ended up just looking like a giant spider web. How do you feel?
Awesome.
Awesome?
Like a tequila.
Like you might need a tequila?
I might need a tequila.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Margarita.
It is done. Look at this thing. Now we are completely done, guys. Thanks for watching.
Then it was time to build the top of the deck, and we did this a little last minute. So Michael and his dad and our buddy Roy went to a few different Lowe's down in Palm Springs and found the perfect wood. We just got to cutting. We wanted this to feel like an art piece out in the middle of the desert. We didn't want it to just be like a regular deck, like we said. So we cut these into triangles, basically. The geometry on it was pretty crazy. It was changing like by the minute. I honestly don't even know what the dimensions ended up even being. So this was really cool to see it start taking shape. I think what took the longest was cutting all of these pieces of wood. The guys were out there for hours, and then we had to come up with what to put in the middle. We still don't know what we're going to put in the middle, so we just used this piece of wood to put there for now as a placeholder. We've kind of toyed with a mirror. We've kind of toyed with maybe another globe. We haven't really figured that out yet. So if you guys have any suggestions, let us know down in the comments.
It took us a long time to figure out the dimensions, the mathematics, Mind you, none of us are math people, but we had to put on our math hats here and figure out some mad geometry to see if we could use the scrap pieces that we cut from the widest boards and use them as the smallest boards as triangles. And with some MacGyvering, we were able to make the scrap pieces work and make them radiate out like a sun.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like a glove.
Nice.
And all these will go together. And then we have a foot over here to work with. Thank God for two sides.
Yeah.
So after a freak windstorm almost took out our shade for the day, we kept working and we persevered through so many board cuts that day. As you can see the clouds going by, we had it dialed in and we were going. We got halfway around the circle this day and it was a very long day, but look at how rewarding this is. I think I was so excited once we got to this point because like you could just see the vision coming to life that I even busted out the drone to capture the moment. Lift up. So these boards, we want them tapered in, and without some like fancy or expensive jig or equipment, we've figured out that like if we want it to come to a fine point, you just measure half of that. And we made, like for instance, these are going to be 8 inches wide up there, and we want it to come to a point. So for the first cut, we made a little template here. So this is 4 inches wide. We screw this on right here. So we have that as the guide. And then when this goes through the saw, it cuts straight, but it'll cut it directly in the center of the board. Then we flip it. We take this off, one screw. It's better than tape. We found it's better than tape. And we have one that is double this, that is 8 inches, that we put on the other side, so that there will be the angle for the other one to get us directly in the center. And this is how we are getting tapered cuts. It was really confusing, but we finally figured out this system.
It takes us about between 6 and 8 minutes aboard.
A board, yeah, if we're cranking.
We're cranking.
We're gonna crank, right?
Everything. You gotta stain everything.
This started smoking, and it's like way too hot to touch with my bare hands.
Once we were finished, we had so much extra wood, so we returned it to Lowe's. We got like over $200 back, and our compromise to not having a perfect circle geometrically, we cut it down to be a perfect circle, and that's what we did here.
Next up was protecting this platform because we had a crazy monsoon that was coming, so we had to add some waterproofing to this wood. So that's what I did here, and you'll see it actually did a really good job repelling the water. I mean, look at this. That is magic, people.
I think we need to just get everything and then just start laying it out. Have an idea of what it is, and then just start moving things around. 2 agave and a saguaro like cactus. And then we can put the ones that spread like the coastal cactus kind of vibe here and over here.
A couple minutes talking about it, and I think we have a plan for how we want to put plants around this area.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna be beautiful.
Yep.
Expensive, but beautiful.
We got our plants from a nursery called Evans Lane in Desert Hot Springs, and it was so exciting. We didn't get a ton of plants like right off the bat, but just bringing them into the space and seeing them there, it just felt like the oasis we were dreaming of. Before we could start planting, we needed to get some water out there, and we tapped into a water line that we use for our cowboy tub, and we just started digging. It was so hot, you guys, and we started piping, and we created this sprinkler system out there. I guess it's a drip system, not technically a sprinkler system, but look at this. We brought water out to the desert, y'all, and we were so excited. Let there be water.
Ready?
Yep. That's the pressure in it.
We have water out here. Woo!
So next up was adding a drip system for all of the plants so that during the heat of the summer they were getting some water, and then we just turned them off during the winter. So we set up this drip system. It's pretty easy. Honestly, anybody can put in a drip system if they want to. It's like Tinker Toys. And one thing that we had to do was we had to differentiate the types of dripper heads that we put on. The cactuses needed less water than the agaves, and then we had to cover up our work and make it look like no one was there because we had guests checking in. Guys, this is all during when we were renting out this house. We were doing these projects in between when our guests were staying there, and look at this progress from this just being nothing in the desert before to being this like magical little circle. And then we ended the day at our favorite pizza spot, Giant Rock Meeting Room.
We were finally at phase 3. We had been envisioning this part of the project for months. It took us 7 months to get here. We ordered all of our globes and we started working on them. We made little platforms and glued them onto them, and we wanted a few to go in the bushes and kind of look like they were floating, so we made them on dowel rods. So then we glued the little platforms on, and then we made holes in the bottom of them once the glue dried so that we would have a little area to pop in the lights that make them glow. Then it was off to the rock yard. We were trying to finish this in a couple days between guests, so we had to do this very quickly. We had about 3 days to get this done. We chose our 3 big boulders, and we just had to wait for them to get delivered.
It's cold. Okay, let's go.
So cold.
And once we got the rocks ordered, it was time to lay out where we wanted these babies to glow, where we wanted them to hang out. After some planning, I decided to start working on getting some electricity out there. These things needed electricity, not a whole lot, just a little bit, but we wanted our guests to be able to turn these on and off. So we put in a little post right here, and I got this waterproof on-off switch off of Amazon. And rather than just screwing in the unit to the front of the post, I wanted it to be built in to make it seem like it was a little more intentional. And basically what this is just a very long outdoor extension cord cut in half, and this switch will trigger the electricity to go on and off from it. So just got to work connecting the wires and getting this switch all ready to go. The next day we had a skid steer delivered because we were going to need to move some rocks and some dirt around. This was my first time playing with one of these, and honestly it was a lot of fun, but it did take some practice to get down. Then the rocks got delivered. and we got to work trying to figure out how we were going to move these things. The truck came as far back as it could, but it was up to us to put them in place. And although it was our first time using this piece of equipment, we were able to maneuver these rocks around, and we ended up just using the skid steer as a giant like ox moving these large objects around, and we were able to just surf them over there. Like, we had just gotten a really big rainstorm, so the ground was actually pretty soft. I mean, it did tear up the ground quite a bit, but it made it easier for us to move these giant rocks around. And then it was about getting these things into the exact position that, to be honest, I don't know what we would have done if we weren't able to do this exact movement right here. Luckily, everything turned out, but it was a very delicate process of trying to get this giant, probably 3,000 pound rock, I don't know, maybe more than that, to stand up. And we did it, and we were so excited when this happened, because that was our vision from the beginning, was to have like tall rocks around. And then we just had to move the other ones. These ones were smaller and it was a lot easier. Then we just played with some dirt and rocks for a little bit.
Once the sun went down, we temporarily placed the moons so that we could play around with our phones and figured out where to place them through the lens of like social media or someone staying at the home taking photos. Once we figured out the heights of the moons that were going to go in the bushes, we cut the dowel rods and placed them into the holes that we created for them and glued them in and sealed all of the wood.
And then we had to organize all of the wires and lights going to each of these floating and glowing moons. This was kind of a process, but what we did behind this giant rock is we put a wood platform down. I cleaned all of the wires up, and I placed them all kind of stacked on top of each other and wound them all up just so that they were kind of like in a neat little pile. And then we got one of those fake landscaping rocks, and this is kind of like our concealed electrical territory that will hide all of this stuff. Gives us easy access just in case we need to adjust anything in the future. All of these were outdoor string lights and outdoor extension cords, and they were all set up onto a GFI outlet. And then it was time to get the moons into place. We used these super strong magnets and some stakes that went in the ground to secure them so they would not move. And then it was time to add the floating moons.
We added some fresh dirt to the area just to make it look fresh and clean, and it just turned out so beautiful and magical. This was one last thing that we had been dreaming of doing over the past couple years. We're excited to expand upon this idea and just creativity on our 5 acres.
And we hope this inspires other hosts out there to think outside the box and view your property as not just a side business or passive income, that if you really put your heart and creative energy into everything you do, it will come back to you.
We're so proud to show you the final result of the moon garden.